Hello, I'm here with Jeff Houlgrave of Marina Projects at the Singapore Yacht Show. Jeff, you spoke earlier this week at the conference and you've got years of experience in the marina industry. I was just wondering, when you look at Asia, it seems to be a complex web of regulations and rules that you need to abide by. And I guess, what is the biggest barrier for entry, both for the clients and owners who want to come here and cruise, and as well for the industry who are trying to make more of an established presence here?
I think the biggest problem is the infrastructure and the lack of clarity about regulations. There's no set common standards that people can work to, and so they use various international standards or local standards, neither of which are suitable. So the biggest barrier to infrastructure development is the lack of standards.
And is that something that owners would struggle with as well? They can't get the right...
I think the lack of regulations generally is difficult to understand. The clarity of regulations. Can they charter, can't they charter? Import-export taxes, all these things put the owner at risk, and so they're very cautious about visiting new places.
But how do we solve that? Because I know we were talking in the conference about there's already so many associations out there. So is it that we need one standard voice, or is it going country to country? There's so many in Asia, obviously, to begin with as a region.
I think each country association has to lobby its own country to make sure that their regulations are understood and simple and friendly to the activity. It's not a high priority on a government's list, but the nautical tourism, the indirect revenue, all these things are important in terms of growth. So the industry associations independently and collectively can lobby the governments.
Is that something that should get easier then, as it's such a busy port now? It's the busiest port in the world, Singapore. Is that going to help us or hinder us, because now they're focusing on commercial?
In Singapore, they have a very good active association for leisure boating and well established. So they have very good programs for youth sailing. And so Singapore as a central hub is really well placed to develop. It can only encourage more and more boats to visit, but the problem is capacity. We're here at 1 degree 15 and it's full with a waiting list. So they need more facilities to be able to generate more activity.
Okay, so that's something good for you then, more marinas?
Good for us.
And then another big topic on everyone's mind with marinas is the size of yachts are getting bigger and bigger. Is that proving an issue for berthing and where they go, where they can cruise?
It's just a function of design, really, in terms of creating the facility that they need to berth in. Engineering design, depth of water, but all relatively simple to solve. The difficult thing is the choice of location. Is it a sheltered location? If you have to build big breakwater infrastructure, it's so expensive that it just becomes too difficult and expensive to build that the marina business can't support that.
And because it is still such a small sector of our industry, isn't it?
It's a very small sector, but I think the more successful developments in this region will be existing old shipyards, old military bases, brownfield sites that we call them in the UK, that are redeveloped into a different use rather than destroying the natural beauty that we've all come here to see.
Right. We were discussing that the other day about Montenegro and how they're utilizing a lot of old military bases. Is that region, do you think it's deserving of all its accolades at the moment, that it's going to be the next Mediterranean and everything else?
Well, it certainly has developed in a very good way to reuse Navy bases and ex-military bases. The geography and the climate prevent other developments, but on the fringe of the main Mediterranean activity, but certainly it is certainly the growth market in the Mediterranean today.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Jeff. Enjoy the rest of your time at the show.
Thank you.